Hey everybody, welcome to the linuxin.com. Today's topic is Dash by Plotly. So, by having the name of Plotly, some of you might have figured it out that it is perhaps going to be about graphs. And yes, you're right, it is about graphs. So, Dash is essentially the representation or the visualization of your data in form of graphs in a web-based user interface. So with the web-based user interface, it doesn't mean that you have to have like an active internet connection in order to show your output. No, that is not the case. You do not need an internet connection in order to run your application or Dash application. You just need a simple server or a local host on which you can actually easily run your Dash applications. All right. So you can say why do we need a Dash application? So the idea is that the Dash application is basically used for the representation or the visualization of the graph. So basically you code all the stuff in the Python or the programming language. So you need essentially a user interface in which you can basically represent a graph or your graph. So that's where Dash comes in. It plays an important role in that. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that Dash combines HTML and React.js together. Yes, if you have not worked on React.js, don't worry about it, because it is going to use it in order to display it on the output, the graph or the output, whatever it is. Okay. So that was the smart brief introduction. Now let me tell you the outline that we are going to have today for today's video. So the first step that we are going to do is that we are going to install Dash application on our Ubuntu system. The second step is going to be writing a simple code, small code by having a little output. And the third code or the third step that we're going to write is having a graph. So we are going to create a graph finally. Okay, so these are the three simple steps that we're going to do. So let's start. All right, so now what you're going to do, that you're going to hit Ctrl-Alt-T. It is going to open up the terminal. That's what we always do. And now we are going to write our first command, which is basically going to install Dash on our computer system. Okay, so for that, we'd write here sudo -h. I'm writing here -h because I want to actually point it directly to the home variable, the environment variable, you can say as well. So I don't want any sort of warnings, because without that, if you would write that on Linux, it would give you a small warning. So I don't want that warning. So that's why I'm writing -h. But if you write that command without -h, it is going to work perfectly fine. There's going to be no problems doing that. Okay. So now I would sort of write this command pip install dash renderer, then dash HTML components space dash core components Plotly. So that is the command. That is the single line command that you're gonna write, and then you hit enter. It asks you for the password. You write the password, and then it sort of starts to install the Dash application on your computer. So it has done so fast for me because I already have installed it. So when you're going to install it, it is probably going to take around 2 minutes if you have a good internet connection. All right, so that's it. Dash is installed. First step is done. That was so simple. So the next step that we're going to take is we are going to create a Python file which is going to have a code, and then we're going to take a look at the output. Okay, so that code is going to be related to the Dash application. So we go to the folder that is here. We create a Python file, like a new text file. We already have a Python Dash file. I guess we would take that, but let's just delete it. We'd create it again, and we save it as like here, let's name it like as dash file python. All right, .py. We hit save, it is saved. So now we are going to write code inside this Python file. All right, so that is our next step. So now, first of all, the first step, as you know, it's going to be import. So we are going to import dash. Then the next line is going to be like, we are going to import dash components, dash core components actually, as DCC. Then we are going to import the HTML dash HTML components as HTML. We're gonna hit enter, and the first line that we're gonna write is app equals dash dot dash. Okay, so dot dash that you see, it is a class, a built-in class that you will get when you will actually install dash app on your system. Okay, so now once you have written it, you go to the next line and then you write here app dot layout, then you write here equals HTML, which is like essentially this one which we have imported. So HTML dot div, and inside of here, like inside of it, we write single quotes, and inside of that, whatever you will write, it will be like displayed on our output in our browser. Okay, so we write here let's say Linux hint YouTube hi. Okay, so that tense doesn't make sense, but let's get on with it. So now this is going to be probably the last step that we're going to write here. It's going to be an if condition, if name double equals, and then we're going to have here main, and then we're going to write here app dot run server. So this if condition actually has to do everything with the running of our server. We don't want any interruptions, so we want our server to run smooth. So that's why we have to turn the debug mode on as well. So we write here debug equals true. So Python is case sensitive. I'm not sure if the D is smaller or greater. Let's get on with it. If we get any sort of errors, we'd know. So so now in order to run this file, what we gotta do, that in that same folder we open up a terminal, and here let me just check. Yes, we have that file in here. So I write here python dot slash dash file python dot py. So I'm gonna run this file, and hopefully it will not give me any errors. Okay, there is an error. That is a typo that I think pretty much I was aware of that. So D is smaller. Okay, so we save it again, and now we sort of try to run it again. Okay, so python dot slash dash file python dot py, hit enter, and yes, our server is absolutely running. So we go back to our browser and we try to type here the address, which is 127.0.0.1, then colons, and then 8050, which is the port number. So you hit enter, and yes, our first dash program is running successfully. Yay, we have done it. So that is very simple that we have done it. So the next step we're going to do, that we are actually going to create a simple graph using this. Okay, so we'd go back to our editor, and in here we'd do little changes, like we are going to use this app.layout as default, because if we don't use it, we cannot actually display something. So whatever the graph code that I'm gonna write, it's gonna be like inside it, like right here, okay, right after that. Okay, so just remember that whatever code that you want to display on the layout, you have to write that code inside this area. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, that let's say that we write here, let's say we write something like children and then equals and this bracket here, and now everything that we're gonna write, that's gonna be like inside this. Okay, so we write here children equals bracket, and then actually we are gonna write here inside of that one more time HTML div, because this is an HTML div actually. So we are gonna write here HTML dot div. Okay, and then we can actually take that to the next line, and then we can put a comma here, and now the graph code, we can write it right here, dcc dot graph. So now the first portion, it's basically going to do nothing, but it is going to represent the same output that we have right here, but this time it is going to represent it as a child, like html.div. It has two children, one is the similar that we have done previously, and the other one is basically the graph that it is going to display. Okay, so you can say that if you are familiar with programming, you might have seen two if statements, like one if statement inside the other one. So that is the similar case, that you're having an HTML div inside an HTML div. So in order to do that, we have actually created like two children of the HTML.div. So the first children is HTML.div, and the second children is actually dcc.graph. And now inside of that dcc graph, we're gonna write our code. We're gonna write here ID. I'm not gonna worry about the indentation part right now, but I'll explain that later, and I will do it myself. So I'll write here ID equals graph. So I'm just writing code randomly without caring about indentation. So if you don't know what indentation is, just Google it. It's just about keeping your code neat and clean, a neat and clean look in terms of brackets, in terms of like spacing. So if you have done that right, then your Python code will get executed, because Python is very serious in these matters of indentation. Okay, other programming compilers, they don't really care, but Python has this. So you need to indent your code. So I would recommend you to download some Python editor or some smart text editor which actually do the indentation part for you. But here in this simple text editor or notepad, you have to do it yourself. Okay, so download some good Python text editor. Okay, so I write here graph ID equals graphs maybe. Okay, so I would put a comma, then I would write here figure equals double brackets, and now inside of that I write here data colons, and then I put here like big brackets, and now inside of that I'm going to write the data, which is for x-axis and y-axis essentially, and then you would specify that what values are for x-axis and y-axis, and then basically what type do you want. Basically in graphs we have like two types, maybe like line and bars. So let's see, the two types that we are going to use are basically lines and bars. So then you specify the type, and then you basically name your graph, like the x-axis and the y-axis overall. So now what you're going to do here, you write here x colon, and now you're going to give the values here. You need to enclose that in this bracket. Then you write here big brackets, you give a value like 1 2 3 oops okay 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, 7 is enough. And then you put a comma here, then you go here, enclose the y in quotes, then you write this thing here, then you write just random values like 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 3 2 4 2 2 4 1 2 3 4 5, like 6 and 7. Okay, and then after that you specify the type. So we want this type to be like, let's say, line. So we write here line, and then after that we give a name, like let's say I say it as like energy, let's say. Okay, and then finally you actually oops I think, yes, we have a problem here. We write like this, I cut it, I paste it right here, and then now I put a comma, and then I go to the next line and I just simply like copy paste it, because the next line is going to be pretty much simple. So I would keep these x-axis values the same. I might change them if I want, like 5, like 6, 7. Now let's change it to 3, 44, 65. Yes, and I change the type as like, say, let's say bar, and the name, let's say time. So I'm not like a physics expert, so energy time, this is just like an example, so just don't take that seriously, guys. Okay, so this is just an example that I just want you to let's say display and visualize the graph. Okay, so I don't even know, like I don't even remember what was the relation between energy and time. So yeah, just ignore this, just learn the way to write the code. So now okay, I think we are pretty much done here. We put a comma here, and then we are just going to write here the layout yes, outside colons, and then I'm gonna write here title, then we're gonna write here graph for time and energy. Got it. So that is basically the whole scenario, the whole thing that we have done here. Now I'm just going to quickly indent this code, and then we are going to save it, we're going to run it. Now I have indented my code, and again I would repeat, download some Python editor or some smart text editor so you can indent the code easily. Okay, so this is the code, and now we're going to save it, and what we are going to do that we are going to run our like sort of server again, just in case, I just don't want any errors to come now. So I would basically go here, python./-file python.py, we hit enter, and our server is just starting up. So we go here and we refresh, and hopefully we would have the visuals of graph that we have created. Oh, please run. Come on. I don't know why it's taking way too long. So let me just cross it and just go on that address again. So yes, we have it right here. You can see the graph for time and energy. This was the title that we have given in our code, and these are the values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we have given on the x-axis, like for both of them, like time and energy. And then we have here the other values that we have given, like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It has automatically adjusted it because I think we have given the values like from 11 to like 55. So it's like the average is like 60, and it's starting from like 0. So from 0 to 60 it has created on y-axis. And the type of line, you can see that for energy it is line, the blue line, and for time it's bar, the orange one. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and for further written articles visit our website linuxhint.com.